Hello Battletech fans, welcome back to another Battletech Heavy Metal video, and today we're going to talk about lance compositions. So the lance compositions after the DLC is released, alongside the 1.8 patch. So if you don't know, I have played this game for over 700 plus hours on the hardest possible difficulties. So I'm just going to give you guys my opinion on what I think would be the best starting lances. Alright, so we have a few new mechs that could be in the starting lance. So I think the maximum, could be wrong here. I think the maximum is like 50 tons that you can have on the randomized starting mechs. But the mechs that can be in there are the Assassin and Phoenix Hawk and the Vulcan. I could see being in the starting lances now, along with Lee. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into, I'm going to talk about the possible starting lances, early to mid-game lances, mid-game lances, and late-game lances, okay? So we're going to go through all of that, and this is all of my opinion. And again, there's no right or wrong way of you guys playing. This is just an opinion. I'm not telling you this is the best way or anything like that. And hey, if you are like, hey, I like to do the LRM stability game, I'm like, great, fantastic. Leave a comment below and tell me how you play that way, and I can maybe like help you work on that. And that's basically what I'm about. I'm not here to kind of judge you. Like, it's all about having fun and playing the game. That's what I'm here to do. And let's get it right into it. Let's talk about the my ideal starting lance and with the new DLC 1.8 patch release. So I have the Assassin, the Phoenix Hawk, a Panther, and a Javelin or Jenner, one of those two. So that would be my ideal starting lance if those mechs, the Assassin and Phoenix Hawk, are able to be in the starting lances. So the main reason for Assassin is because it has a quirk that ignores 3 evasion pips. That's huge. That's insane. That's insane to have in the early game. If it's not available in the starting lance, you want to acquire it as soon as possible. And then the Phoenix Hawk doing extra damage after jumping. It's great on follow-ups or great to, open up the battle. And then Panther with a PPC and the customizations that you can do with the Panther. It's a great energy build that you can make great energy builds with the Panther. And it's kind of do a little bit of cleanup and a little bit of control as well. So like early on, obviously you can't, you could, but you'll eat up some career days, obviously. But, if you're just starting out with the normal loadout, the PPC and whatnot, the PPC can give your opponent a hard time to hit you by giving that +1 difficulty to hit. So it's good to have that early on as well. And then the Javelin or Jenner, one of the other two, using SRMs and their speed to get to the flanks of your enemy. So that's very important to have that, especially, if you're in the early game and you're just trying to, get by some certain missions, or you want to, salvage some mechs, like this is the way to do it, or you want to leg mechs, this is a good way to do it. So how I would play that is, let's say you're up against a Locust, and it has 4 evasion pips after a move. So I'd use my Phoenix Hawk first. I would jump my Phoenix Hawk and get to either the side of the Locust if possible, if at all possible, and then fire its weapons. And if I hit, great. If not, oh well, but chances are I might be able to hit. And if I get at least one shot on the Locust, it's probably going to be a devastating hit, right? Since I'm doing extra damage after jump jetting with the Phoenix Hawk. So that's one way to think about it. And then the follow-up with the Assassin, right? And now I would have 3 evasion pip ignore, and that's what it has. And I'm going to shoot at the Locust with that, and I'm going to have great accuracy, and I might strip weapons, blow up the leg, whatever it is. It's going to open the game up for me and give me options. And then I can follow up if it doesn't work out the way I want it, I can follow up with the Javelin or Jenner to its flanks again and fire. And if I don't kill the Locust at that point, I can then follow up with the Panther after it's either on the ground or severely damaged, and then the Panther can just clean up. So that is the idea with this starting lance. And that's if those mechs are going to be available for the starting randomized lance. If not, I'm going to give you my other choices in place of those mechs is either the Enforcer in place of the Assassin. And just for the sake of, having a mech that can do 60 damage with an AC 10, and break open a battle, and then also having a large laser to boot, that is pretty good. That's pretty good. Enforcer is not a bad mech, pretty underrated. The only problem with it is obviously the AC-10 isn't really that accurate, so you have to play it well as best you can and give the best chances to hit as much as possible. But if you play the Enforcer very well, it can work in your favor. And then obviously the Centurion in place of the Phoenix Hawk, again, just brawling, opening up, softening the enemy, reducing evasion. And then, the Vindicator can be in place of the Panther as well, or in place of the Phoenix Hawk. Either way, the Vindicator is not a bad mech too, and it can open up the battle and do the same thing. And then I would still have either my Panther there, but I would still have my Javelin or Jenner. Either one will work. I prefer the Jenner. The Jenner just seems to work out better for me, just in my experience. So that's kind of what I would do in the starting lance. It's kind of what my ideal starting lance would be if I had a choice. If I were to pick one, that's what I would do. And then I'm going to go talk about the early to mid. So we've already started our career mode. We had a couple missions in, and now we're starting to acquire mechs. So this is we're starting to get to the medium mechs, right? So I'm kind of the brawling control type player. So I like to, focus fire an enemy and reduce it to rubble in one turn. It's basically what I try to do, is play the control game and ignore the other guys, and then kind of just work my way down the list. And I find the best mechs to do that are either the Griffin 1S and 1N, the Assassin, again. And the Assassin is going to be a mech that you're going to have pretty much early to mid. It's just a great mech to have, especially when ignoring 3 evasion pips. That's so insane. It's so insane. I don't know why you wouldn't have it in there. And then a Shadowhawk 2D, great armor for what it is, and then, also brawling capabilities. And then a Centurion or Wolverine. A Centurion Wolverine, both have great armor, tanking abilities, and also, delivering immense amount of damage. So, kind of with those mechs, I kind of have a lot of SRMs, AC5s, and medium laser builds. So it's kind of a controlling build. So, if I get to that point where I have call shot bonus on one of my mechs, I can start focus firing on those mechs that I want to focus fire on, and then push it out of the turn for the next round, right? So, and I can do damage and then do damage again, so kind of work its way through. So, all right, so that would be kind of my ideal lance with the early to mid game, kind of just more brawling builds, and then the Assassin being in there. Kind of breaking open the battle, removing evasion after it's firing. So, like, most medium mechs are around 3 to 4 evasion. So just think about it. You're ignoring pretty much all 3 of those evasions, and if it has 1 left, it's gonna get, it's not gonna matter too much, right? And you're gonna start weakening your opponent, and you can start chipping away. But also, I'm gonna give you guys a stab damage lance as well. So I know there's a lot of players out there that like to do the stab damage game. It's fine. It's awesome. But I'm going to give you my ideal lance with that. So I would have a Wolverine 6R, again, with some SRM6s, some medium lasers, and then you have the Kintaro, which is basically kitted out with all SRMs, and then you have the Trebuchet, which is you can have, I think you can have a combination of like an LRM-15 and an LRM-10, or I don't know if you can do two LRM-15s, but if you have stab, damage, loss tech on those, you're gonna be golden. And then your last mech could be any kind of energy mech. So basically a cleanup mech after you put the mech on the ground. So after you put the enemy mech on the ground. So how I would work that out if I were playing a scenario, let's talk about first contact. And first contact would be something like, I detect them, right? And they know we're here. And my next move, they would do their moves, right? And then I would sprint in the next round, and then they would move in, and they would shoot at me the next round, and then I would kind of reserve down. I would reserve down, then they would shoot at me, right? Then I can do like a follow-up on one of the mechs. Okay, so whatever is the most dangerous or the one that you want to get rid of, that's the one I would focus on, or the one you want to capture. So I would start off, with the probably with the Wolverine. If there's, depending on if there's a lot of evasion or there's certain evasion, I would say if it's over 3, this might not be a good idea. But I would say if the mech is at 2 evasion, like this would be ideal. Okay. So this is how I would do it. The Wolverine will move in and start. So it's going to lay in and start laying in the SRMs. I think the Wolverine SR can have like 3 SRM6s. So that's pretty significant. And if you have stab damage, loss tech on them, that's even better. And then, you would soften their side if you can get to the side. And then you would follow up with the Kintaro, and then the Kintaro can push it over that unsteady threshold if it's not already there. And then your Treb can finish the job and put the mech on the ground. And then you have your energy mech to kind of follow up and clean up the kill, or pick out which, let's say it's a 3 health pilot or whatever, and you've already blown up the leg and the torso and the fall damage along with that, so that's 2 health off, and you just want to focus fire the other torso and blow that other torso off, so that's 3 health gone, and the pilot should be incapacitated at that point. So that would be kind of the way that you could work out your stability lance. So let me know in the comments below what you guys want to do as well. Like, let me know what your ideal starting lance, your early to mid lance. Please let me know, guys. I want to know. I'm interested here. So now we're going to get into into some interesting parts of the game, which is the mid game. So a lot of people, this is where people start to branch off into different ideas. And I'll talk about the stab lance as well. So I'll talk about my ideal lance. So this is my brawling lance. So we have the Grasshopper. I mean, the Grasshopper is such a great utility mech. It can do whatever you want. It could strip. It could blow up legs. It could get behind your opponent's back. It could be a distraction. It could do a lot of things. The Grasshopper is an ideal heavy mech that you want in the mid game. All right, so that's again my opinion. And then an Archer. So this is one of the new released mechs coming out of heavy metal. And the Archer has a quirk that gives it extra SRM stability damage, and that's how I would use it. Right? That's how I would use it. It's gonna be giving my my lance the extra stability damage, and it gives me more control. And I would have a Vanguard pilot in there. So Vanguard pilot has Master Tactician, Sensor Lock, and Bulwark. So having that control, so like, I'm fighting a heavy lance, my Archer is in a heavy mech, it's going to be in the 3rd initiative phase, And most likely, most of those heavy mech pilots that I'm probably going to face are not going to be tactician pilots where they're going to be in the same phase with me. And I can kind of control the battle with this archer. I can do a lot of different things. And with that being said, my third mech would be a Warhammer. And the Warhammer is going to be a beast to deal with, especially with its 10% energy damage increase. And it's going to have decent accuracy. And it's, you could add stability damage PPCs to this mech, right? So this mech is, it's going to give you that cleanup ability, right? It's going to give you that extra edge in battle. It gives you more options to do what you need to do. And the Marauder giving the 10% damage reduction to your entire lance. Now, the Marauder is key here, okay? It is going to be a key mech in a lot of people's lances from mid all the way through late game. And because of that 10% damage reduction, this mech is going to be very viable later on. So how my lance would work and how I would kind of do that is, if I'm fighting, let's say, an Orion, and it's just a normal, let me just say it's a normal pilot, and he's in the heavy phase, the second initiative phase, and my other three mechs are in that phase, except for my archer, who has a Vanguard pilot in it. And now I can, I'm already engaged with this guy, and I can precision strike now him down to the first phase, right? I can precision him down to the first phase and kind of open the battle up for myself, and I can kind of just focus him out now. I can move my other three mechs in there, so I can, alongside of the stability damage that it's going to receive from the archer, now I can follow up with the Warhammer and give extra stab damage, which is huge. And then if the Marauder has PVCs on it too, if that's the build you're going to do, and you have stab damage PVCs on those as well, you're going to start knocking down mechs easily, and then the Grasshopper will obviously clean up the mech that's on the ground. So that would be my ideal lance for the mid-game, as I see it. So a lot of new mechs in there, and I'm getting rid of the old ones, but I think that's going to be a very powerful combo. Again, I don't know what all the armor classes are going to be for the Warhammer, the Marauder, and Archer, so I don't know the viability of all these are, but I feel like it's going to be a strong combination. Now let's talk about the stability lance in the mid game, and instead of the Warhammer, you can have a Catapult C4. Now, if you're not using a Catapult C4, I would acquire one. If you start up a new playthrough, I would try your best to acquire one. They're a lot of fun. They are a ton of fun, and they're scary to face. If you haven't seen my latest playthrough episode, go check that out. Running into a Catapult C4 is a nightmare. It is the most devastating mech to face, in my opinion, as an enemy opponent right now. It has two LRM-20s on it, which is insane. So it can it can make your mechs pretty much unsteady. If you have medium mechs, it makes them unsteady right away. You don't have a choice, unless you have sure footing. Maybe that's a big maybe. But the Catapult C4 would be a great replacement for the Warhammer, and then having PPC stab damage on the Marauder. So it wouldn't be that much of a change, but it would just replace the Warhammer with a Catapult C4. So you would have your Archer with the SRMs, you would have your Catapult C4 with LRM-20s on it, and if you have stab damage LRM-20s, oh man, I pray for the enemy on that one. And then you have PPC stab damage on your Marauder. So you would kind of do it like this. You would have your Archer fire first, following with your Catapult C4, and if we don't knock him down, then the Marauder can follow up, and then your Grasshopper can play cleanup. Pretty simple idea, I think. Again, let me know in the comments below what you guys would do for your mid-game lance. What would be your heavy lance? All right. And on to the late game. So the late game can kind of get interesting for most people. A lot of people tend to, I tend to do headhunting in the late game, and others kind of play the stability damage game. And there's always so many play styles with this, but let me get into mine. So my ideal late game lance would be a Highlander 733P, and then a King Crab or a Stalker, which is basically LRM support with large lasers on them, a Banshee 3S, an Atlas, or a Cyclops. Now, a lot of people would be like, a Banshee? I'm like, if you haven't seen the latest variant that was released, the Banshee 3S is a monster. It is a monster. I think that thing can get like 1600 armor. It can have like a 1600 armor class on it. Not 1600, is it? Yeah, I think it's like 16. It's something. It's really up there. It's ridiculous. It's like right up to the Atlas. It's strong, and its loadout. I kitted out my Banshee 3S with the ECM. So I gave it ECM. I gave it like 4 or 5 medium lasers with plus 10 damage on it. I gave it an AC5 with accuracy. And what else did I give it? I think I may have given it some SRM6s with stability, with damage as well. And I think I was doing like well over 300 plus with that thing. Yeah, that's a scary mech, man. That is a scary mech. So don't knock the Banshee 3S. The Banshee 3S is the best Banshee you could get. But yeah, so with the Highlander 733P, I make that into a brawler. So that is my primary brawler. It's going to have SRMs, some large lasers on it, medium lasers on it. It has all plus damage on it. And I think I'm doing like almost 350 plus damage with the thing. So it's a brute to deal with. And when I talk about brawlers and that, I want to kind of refer to the pilots that are in these brawlers. Now for a brawler, I tend to have gladiators in my brawling mechs. So the gladiators for pilots would be multi-target, bulwark, and cooling vent. So basically, you can fire more often. And using multi-target, you have options, and then bulwark having reduced damage. So that's why I have a gladiator in my brawling mechs. And so for like support or fire support, I kind of do, or snipers or fire support, I kind of have lancers. So lancers are pretty much multi-target, bulwark, and breaching shot. And if you have multi-target and breaching shot, you can do some damage. And we'll kind of go into that a little bit with the other lance that I would kind of build with this expansion. As a test build. I'm not really sure about it, but I want to test it out. And then for your support mechs, a Vanguard is perfect. Vanguards have bulwark, sensor lock, and master tactician. So that's what I would do. So my King Crab and Stalkers will have LRM support with large lasers on it. Do not diss large lasers. They have extremely good accuracy. And if you're headhunting, the King Crab head can have like 2 large lasers on it, so the Stalker. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've blown up mechs with those 2 mechs as my support. So yeah, I don't mind that at all, especially when you're creating stability damage and also, in the chance of the LRMs hitting the head also, and having your large lasers hit as well is pretty devastating. And the Banshee 3S is also being a brawler as well. And then the Atlas and Cyclops. Now, this is where things can kind of get interesting as well. The Atlas being a support mech in a sense. I know it out there, but it doesn't have like an insane loadout. Like you can put AC-20s on it and whatnot, or an AC-20 on it, and just go to town with brawling and stuff. That's fine. But for me, I like to have it, kind of more of a support role. It kind of, does the finishing, and so it kind of cleans up everything, in a sense. If one mech can't do it, the Atlas will definitely do it. That sort of thing. And then the Cyclops with his battle computer. Is it the Cyclops Z? I want to say that comes with the battle computer. And the Cyclops Z with the battle computer is so underrated that you can put your entire assault lance into the heavy phase. And it's crazy, especially for like a control player as myself. I know people were like, oh, well, what if you get into the late game and you're talking about assaults? You can't like move your assaults away. And I'm like, no, but I can have I can have the rest of my team now be in the second phase, and I can kind of focus fire in that sense. So that would be my kind of ideal lance. And this is my my tester lance here. So this is something that I want to try out, and I'm going to try out in one of my playthroughs coming up soon. So obviously I'm still going to have my Highlander, but then in place of the King Crab and Stalker, I'm going to have the Marauder. And then in place of my Banshee, I'm going to have the Annihilator. And then in place of the Atlas and Cyclops is the Bull Shark. So I want to test some things out. The Marauder, just giving reduction of damage, might help the Annihilator out. That's my point in this entire thing, is I want to try to make sure the Annihilator lasts long enough to do what it needs to do. And I'm not really sure how I would set up my Annihilator, but to the point where I'm just, I'm going to have it a Lancer pilot in my Annihilator. And a Lancer pilot, again, multi-target bulwark and breaching shot. So I'm basically going up to the front line and I'm spreading my damage over X amount of mechs. So if I have 4 AC-10s or whatever I happen to place on the mech, I'm doing breaching shots. So I'm doing like 60 damage to all 4 of those mechs. And I'm breaching, I'm softening. It might be decent. I don't know. I'm not sure. And then the Bull Shark, obviously, with its thumper cannon, utilizing it to do head hit pilot injuries and then softening the armor as well. So that would be my ideal lances for the starting lance, the early to mid lance, and mid game lance, and late game lances. I'm interested to see what you guys would do. If you don't mind, leave in the comments below what you guys would build for all those early, mid game, and late lances. I want to see what lances you guys can come up with and what works best for you guys. And what's your play style? I want to know what everyone's play style is. I mean, there might be something that I don't know about that's out there, and I might want to try that too. Again, guys, this is all speculative. This is just a great discussion with everyone on this channel. I want to build a community with you guys, and I know it's going to be awesome because you guys are awesome. We're up to like 60, I think almost 62 subscribers I think we're at right now, which is awesome. So thank you guys so much. You guys rock. You make this channel what it is. So thank you so much. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because we're going to have some awesome content coming your way once Heavy Metal is released. And I'm kind of doing a playthrough right now in the interim before Heavy Metal is released. So, if you want to go check that out, I'm going to be doing the hardest possible playthrough with the Heavy Metal DLC release and also a normal playthrough. So we'll do the hardest playthrough and normal playthrough with the release. So it should be a lot of fun, and I have something in the works for you guys that you might really, really enjoy. So again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the rating button, tell me what you think, and let me know in the comments below what you guys would do with your lances and how you would set them up with the release of the Heavy Metal DLC and 1.8 patch. I'll see you guys on the next video.